Crystal chandeliers shimmered across the ceiling of the most luxurious banquet hall in the city. Hundreds of guests, from political figures to familiar faces from the business pages, stood holding champagne flutes, smiling as they waited for the moment the bride would appear. I, Thanh Vân, stood behind the massive doors adorned with white roses. The custom-made wedding gown of soft silk clung to my body. But at this moment it only made me feel suffocated. Ha Lin, my personal secretary, stood beside me and spoke softly through the hidden earpiece. President Lee, everything is ready. If you decide, I'll activate it immediately. I took a deep breath and nodded. The doors opened. Wedding music filled the hall, but I did not step forward as rehearsed. Instead, I raised my hand, signaling the band to stop. The music cut off abruptly, and the entire hall fell into stunned silence. I walked onto the stage, my high heels striking the marble floor with sharp, deliberate clicks. When I reached the microphone, I calmly removed the veil, revealing a face free of heavy makeup. My voice carried through the hall, steady and cold to the bone. I apologize for interrupting the celebration, but I cannot proceed with today's ceremony. A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. Mrs. Han, who had always worn a flawless smile in front of me, stood up abruptly, her voice trembling as she tried to remain composed. Thanh Vân, what are you saying? Today is a joyous occasion. Don't be unreasonable. I looked directly at her, then shifted my gaze to Han Vu Fong. My fiancé stood on the other side of the stage, his face flashing with confusion mixed with irritation. This is not a joke, I said calmly. I refuse to marry Han Vu Fong. The whispers spread like water rippling outward. Han Vu Fong took a step forward, his voice pressed tight with anger. Thanh Vân, what the hell are you doing? Everyone is here. Are you trying to humiliate me in front of all these people? I gave a small smile, one without any warmth. You're afraid of losing face. Then did you think about this when, last night, you sent me a message saying that after we're married, you expect me to accept that you will continue maintaining a special relationship with the woman you call your childhood close friend? The same woman you promised to cut off all contact with before the engagement? The entire hall went dead silent. I raised my phone. The large screen behind the stage lit up automatically, magnifying the message for everyone to see. Han Vu Fong, last night at 11:47 p.m. Thanh Vân, don't be so suspicious. She's just a friend from childhood. What I feel for her is different from what I feel for you. After we're married, I'll still need to see her a few times a month to comfort her. You'll be the official wife. She won't compete with you for anything. Can you be a little understanding? Below the text was a heart emoji he had sent. The guests erupted into murmurs, their gazes turning toward Han Vu Fong. His face drained of color as he shouted in panic. That was a private message. How dare you make it public in front of everyone? You've gone too far. I looked at him, my voice still even. Private? When you sent it to me, did you really think this was something that could stay hidden forever? Or did you assume that after marriage, I would obediently accept being the official wife, while you maintained an affair on the side? Mrs. Han rushed in, visibly flustered. Thanh Vân, calm down. This is just a small matter. Vu Fong only misspoke. She forced a smile, her voice urgent. The engagement between our two families was arranged long ago. Why make such a scene over this? I turned to her, my eyes unwavering. Mrs. Han, if this were such a small matter, why didn't you tell your son not to send messages like that on the night before the wedding? Or did you assume I would stay silent and endure it all to preserve the reputation of both families? Then I looked around the hall, my voice ringing clearly. I, Thanh Vân, will not accept a marriage that begins with betrayal and disrespect. Therefore, here and now, I declare that the engagement between myself and Han Vu Fong is terminated. Han Vu Fong roared, pointing at me. Who do you think you are? If Vân Phong Group hadn't injected capital to save Han Corp 2 years ago, do you think I'd even look at you? A woman like you, just because you have money, you think you can do whatever you want. I curved my lips into a cold smile. That's right, precisely because I have money and power. I can stand here today and make it very clear that Han Corp no longer holds any value as a partner to Van Phong. I turned to Ha Lin. Ha Lin, proceed. Ha Lin nodded. Her calm voice carried through a secondary microphone. On behalf of President Lee Tan Van, I hereby announce that all cooperation agreements between Vân Phong Group and Han Corp are officially terminated. All investments, preferential loans, and collateral assets will be fully withdrawn within 48 hours. All dowry assets previously transferred to the Han family will be retrieved today. The hall exploded into chaos. Mr. Han stood up, his face ashen. Tan Van, you can't do this. Are you trying to destroy our entire family? I looked at him coldly. I'm not destroying anything. Your son chose to treat me as a secondary option. If you believed I would bow my head and endure it all just to save your company, then you were mistaken. I stepped down from the stage, my wedding dress flowing lightly with each step. As I passed Han Vu Fong, I paused for a single second and spoke softly, just loud enough for him to hear. You were right about one thing. A woman like me, with money, can do whatever she wants. And right now, what I want is to cut off every connection with you. Good luck surviving on your own. I walked out of the banquet hall, my long wedding gown brushing across the polished marble corridor. The noise behind me continued to echo, Mrs. Han's sobs, Mr. Han shouting my name, guests whispering and speculating, but it all sounded like distant wind passing by my ears. Ha Lin was already waiting beside a sleek black SUV parked at the hotel's main entrance. She opened the door, her voice as calm as ever. President Lee, the car is ready. The legal department is processing the contract termination notices and capital recovery. Han Corp will receive official documents within 4 hours. As for the dowry, all jewelry, cash, and real estate have been secured. The transport team is on the way back to the warehouse. I sat in the back seat, removed my high heels, and gently rubbed my numb feet after standing for too long. The wedding dress was still on me, but the oppressive weight was completely gone, replaced by a sharp sense of relief, like cutting away a rope that had been tightening around my neck. Thank you, I said. Send me an updated report on the list of minority shareholders holding less than 1%. And recheck every transfer related to the dowry. I want all the numbers clean. No loose ends. Ha Lin nodded, her fingers moving swiftly across the iPad. Understood. There's one more thing. Mr. and Mrs. Han contacted your private secretary. They want to see you tonight to explain and apologize. I looked out the window. Streetlights sliding across my reflection in the glass. No meeting. Let them deal with it themselves. The more panicked they are, the more likely they are to reveal what they really want. The car glided smoothly toward my villa. I closed my eyes to rest my mind for a moment. But less than 20 minutes later, my phone vibrated nonstop. It was an unfamiliar number. But I knew immediately who it was. I answered without speaking. Mr. Han's voice came through the line, frantic and nearly pleading. Tan Van, Miss Lee, please. I'm sorry. I apologize on behalf of that unfilial son of mine. Please don't do this. Han Corp is on the brink. If you just withdraw the termination decision, I promise I'll discipline him. Make him cut off that woman completely. I stayed silent for a few seconds, then replied coldly. Mr. Han, last night your son sent me a message stating very clearly that after marriage, he would still need to meet another woman several times a month to comfort her. I read it very carefully. I suggest you read it again as well. He stammered. That was just a moment of foolishness. He was led astray by that woman. If you can be magnanimous and let this go, I'll drive her away immediately. You can name any condition you want. This marriage is the fate of 2 generations. How can you be so heartless? I cut him off. Fate? If it were fate, why didn't you teach your son not to betray his fiancée on the eve of his wedding? I owe the Han family nothing. I saved Han Corp once. 2 years ago. This time, I won't. His voice broke, almost crying. Please don't do this. If Han Corp collapses, not just me, but the entire family, the whole clan will be ruined. For the sake of your grandmother. For the sake of the friendship between our families. I laughed softly, my voice colder than I expected even from myself. My grandmother is gone, and if she were still alive, she would never allow anyone to bully me. Don't bring her into this again. I don't want to hear it. I ended the call. Less than 3 minutes later, my phone vibrated again. This time, it was Mrs. Han. I didn't answer. I turned off the ringtone, switched the phone to silent mode, and tossed it onto the seat beside me. When the car arrived at the villa, Ha Lin opened the door for me. I walked inside and stripped off the wedding dress right there in the grand foyer, letting it fall to the floor like a discarded piece of fabric. The house staff hurried over, but I raised a hand to stop them. Leave it. Throw it away tomorrow. I went straight to the bathroom. Hot water poured down, washing away the remaining makeup and the expensive perfume Mrs. Han had chosen for me. I looked at myself in the mirror, no longer a bride. No longer a compliant fiancé. There was only Lee Tan Van, the woman who had single-handedly dragged Vân Phong Group back from the brink to where it stood today. When I came out wearing a simple bathrobe, Ha Lin was waiting in the living room with a stack of documents. President Lee, this is the preliminary report. Mr. and Mrs. Han are trying to contact some of our minor shareholders, hoping to persuade them to apply pressure. So far, no one has responded. They seem genuinely panicked. I flipped through a few pages and nodded. Good, let them try. The harder they push, the more their true nature shows. Ha Lin hesitated slightly before continuing. There's one more thing. Han Vu Fong just posted on social media. He's portraying the broken engagement as your irrational jealousy, saying you couldn't accept him having a close friendship. There are already some comments supporting him, mostly from people who don't know the full story. I curved my lips and picked up my phone to take a look. His post included a cropped screenshot of our messages, only my replies were visible. The earlier messages conveniently missing. The caption was dripping with sentimentality. Tan Van, I just wanted you to understand that friendship matters too. Why wouldn't you give me a chance to explain? I never expected you to expose everything in front of so many people. I scrolled through the comments, then put the phone down. Let him make as much noise as he wants. I need public opinion boiling a little longer to lure out the big fish hiding on the board. Ha Lin nodded slightly, a flash of understanding in her eyes. I sat on the sofa and looked out the window. Fu though at night was quiet, but inside me, the storm had only just begun. Han Vu Fong, the Han family, you chose the wrong opponent. And I will make you pay, inch by inch, without haste and without mercy. The next morning, I woke up at exactly 6. As usual, no wedding dress, no elaborate makeup. I put on a perfectly tailored black suit, tied my hair into a neat high bun, and went downstairs to brew a cup of black coffee with no sugar. The aroma filled the silent villa, sharpening my mind completely before the new day began. Ha Lin was already waiting in my home office, iPad in hand and a printed dossier prepared. Good morning, President Lee. Things are unfolding exactly as expected. She handed me the iPad. The screen was filled with posts, trending hashtags, and comments across social media platforms. Han Vu Fong's post from last night had spread rapidly. He had attached the same cropped screenshots, paired with a pitiful caption. Tan Van, I just want you to understand that friendship matters too. I never imagined you would expose everything in front of hundreds of people. She's just a childhood friend. You were so jealous you cancelled the wedding and even terminated business cooperation. You're rich and powerful, but how can you be so cruel? She's now mentally unstable and has been hospitalized for observation. Below the post were thousands of comments, most expressing sympathy for the unnamed, close friend, and condemning me. Poor Mr. Han, he just wanted to keep a friendship and got kicked out of his own wedding. Lee Tan Van is such a lioness. Rich people really think they can do anything. A wealthy woman, but so narrow-minded. Feel sorry for him. I scrolled through them without the slightest reaction. Ha Lin asked quietly, do you want to release the complete, original message history? I've prepared the full file, including timestamps and unedited content. I shook my head and placed the iPad on the desk. Not yet. Let public opinion keep boiling for a few more days. Van Fong's stock is being dumped. That's the best opportunity to accumulate more shares. Ha Lin smiled softly, understanding immediately. The buyback team was activated this morning. The price is already down 9% compared to yesterday. If this continues, we can acquire an additional 4 to 6% from panicked minor shareholders. Good. And keep a close eye on my uncle's shareholder group. He's definitely getting restless. I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. My phone kept vibrating, messages from friends, partners, even a few journalists. I answered none of them. Silence, at times like this, was the strongest weapon. By noon, the stock price had dropped another 7%. Some major shareholders began sending emails demanding an emergency board meeting. My uncle, Lee Min Kang, led the charge. His message read, Thanh Vân, what's going on? The public backlash is brutal. The company's value is dropping. Shareholders are panicking. You should speak up. If this continues, the losses will be enormous. I'm really worried about you. I read it and gave a faint, cold smile. No reply. Later that afternoon, I received a call from a close partner, Mr. Tran, the director of a large investment fund. Thanh Vân, I've seen what's happening online. Are you okay? I'm fine, I replied briefly. Just a bit of personal drama. He laughed loudly over the phone. Drama that wipes 16% off a stock in less than 24 hours? But I know you. You're not someone who goes down easily. If you need support, just say the word. I'm ready to buy in and help push the price back up. Thank you, Uncle Tran, but I can handle it myself. I hung up and looked out the window as the late afternoon sun dyed the city red. I knew very clearly that this storm of public opinion was not a disaster, it was an opportunity. That evening, I attended a small business cocktail gathering, not for leisure, but to observe and reinforce relationships. The moment I walked in, I spotted Han Vu Fong standing in a corner, a drink in hand, talking to a few people. He wore a gray suit, his hair carefully styled, but his bloodshot eyes and forced smile betrayed his desperation. When he saw me, he immediately walked over, lowering his voice with a mocking edge. Lee Thanh Vân, being dragged online non-stop these past few days must be exhausting. Huh? I told you, no matter how capable a woman is, she can't beat a man. All it takes is a few rumors, and you fall from the peak straight into the abyss. He leaned closer and whispered, if you obediently hand Van Fong over to me now, I might reconsider the marriage. Otherwise, just wait and watch your company die by your own hands. I looked at him without a trace of panic. I gently swirled the champagne in my glass. My voice soft but razor sharp. You're still dreaming at this point? The Han family has nothing left. What exactly do you plan to do? Use rumors to force me? Or do you think I'll beg you to forgive me because I'm afraid of losing the company? His expression flickered, then quickly returned to smug confidence. Just wait, I already have a plan. You'll regret pushing me into a corner. I raised my wine glass and lightly clinked it against his. I'll be waiting, but a sincere piece of advice, don't do anything stupid. Because this time, I won't hold back. I turned and walked toward another group of guests. Soon, several senior executives gathered around me, chatting animatedly. They all knew that without Vân Phong Group, the Han family was nothing. Han Vu Fong stood frozen behind me, gripping his glass so tightly that a thin crack spread through the crystal. I glanced at him one last time and smiled faintly to myself. This storm of public opinion was exactly what I needed to clean out the internal trash. And when the time came, I would flip the board overnight. 3 days after the cocktail party, public opinion still hadn't cooled. Vân Phong Group's stock had fallen by more than 28% since the wedding day, a number that sent many minor shareholders into a panic sell-off. I sat in the large conference room on the 35th floor, looking down at the city through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The slanting afternoon sunlight highlighted the tense faces around the long table. My uncle, Lee Min Kang, sat at the head opposite me, flanked by several major shareholders from the family faction and a few neutrals. They looked at me with a mixture of feigned concern and undisguised calculation. My uncle spoke first, his voice low and heavy with apparent worry. Thanh Vân, I know you're under a lot of pressure. The public backlash is vicious. The company's value is falling. Shareholders are anxious. You're young, and a woman, so it's only natural to need some help. That's why we called this meeting today. We propose that you temporarily hand over executive authority to an interim management committee. Your dividends will remain unchanged, so you can rest assured. A few people nodded. Someone coughed softly in agreement. My uncle continued, his tone increasingly persuasive. Take a few months off and let things settle. I'll handle the rest. You're a woman. Getting married and having children is the best path in the long run. A company like this is safer in men's hands. Another shareholder chimed in, his voice gentle but loaded with intent. That's right, Miss Lee, you're still young. You do have management experience. But it's not deep enough yet. Let Uncle Min Kang and us support you. The company will stabilize much faster. I remained silent, merely tapping my fingers lightly against the tabletop. The air in the room gradually grew heavy. After a few seconds, I turned to Ha Lin, who was standing behind me. Ha Lin, distribute the documents. She stepped forward and placed a thin folder on the table, handing a copy to each person present. It was the most up-to-date shareholding report, printed in color and stamped with official certification from the Business Registration Authority. I spoke, my tone as calm as if I were commenting on the weather. Everyone, take a look. Before deciding who should sit in the chairman's seat, it would be wise to verify the numbers first. My uncle picked up the report and flipped through a few pages. His face gradually drained of color. The others fell silent as well. The only sound left was the soft rustle of paper. I continued evenly. Before my grandmother passed away, she transferred part of her shares to my aunt and uncle to help look after me. At that time, I personally held 49%. But over the past 3 months, especially after the rumors erupted, the stock price fell sharply. Many minor shareholders panicked and sold off their shares. And I quietly bought back everything they sold. I paused and looked straight into my uncle's eyes. As of now, I hold 51.3% of the shares, an absolute majority. Which means from this moment on, every decision of the board only needs my approval to pass. No one can force me to relinquish control. The conference room fell dead silent, as if frozen solid. My uncle clenched the report so tightly the pages crumpled, his voice trembling. Why you bought back that many shares without anyone knowing? Doing this in secret, does that mean you don't trust your uncle? I gave a faint, cold smile. Uncle, I keep those I trust close. As for those who try to exploit my difficulties to seize power, I handle them myself. A shareholder from my supporting faction immediately spoke up, his voice energized. President Lee holds over 51%. There's no one more suitable to lead Vân Phong Group. We fully support her. Others quickly nodded in agreement. My uncle forced a stiff smile. Of course, seeing you so capable puts my mind at ease. But public opinion is still having a major impact. If it isn't addressed, the losses will affect all of us. I nodded. You're right. And today, everything will be resolved once and for all. I gestured to Ha Lin. She turned on the large screen at the front of the conference room. A video began to play. It showed the wedding ceremony from multiple camera angles, from the moment I removed my veil and publicly revealed Han Vu Fong's messages to the instant I announced the termination of cooperation. Then came a short edited segment, the full, uncropped message history he had sent me the night before the wedding, displayed alongside his social media post and the real public comments. When the video ended, the room erupted. So the fiancé demanded to maintain a relationship with another woman right before the wedding? The Han family caused this mess, not President Lee. President Lee handled it correctly. If she had married him, Vân Phong would have been the one in danger. My uncle's face turned completely bloodless. His trembling hand set the documents back on the table. I stood up, my voice cold but clear. From now on, Vân Phong Group will release this video across all official channels. Public opinion will correct itself. Then I looked directly at my uncle. As for you, uncle, I have a proposal. A new coal mine has just opened in Africa. I think you should go there to oversee market development. Fresh air, meaningful work. I'll take care of your airfare, accommodation, and living expenses for the first year. He stammered. Thanh Vân, are you trying to send me away? I smiled lightly. Not sending you away, just giving you an opportunity to support me from a distance. I believe you'll do well. He went pale, unable to speak. I turned to the others. This meeting is adjourned. From today onward, Vân Phong will continue to grow even stronger. Thank you all for your support. I walked out of the conference room with Ha Lin following behind me. The door closed, but the murmurs inside still echoed faintly. I knew the board had been flipped, and this was only the first step in clearing out everything that did not belong. 1 week after the shareholders' meeting, Vân Phong Group had clearly regained momentum. The stock price not only recovered but rose roughly 8% above its pre-wedding level. The wedding video and the complete original message history were officially released through the group's media channels. Public opinion reversed almost entirely. So Han Vu Fong was the one who betrayed his fiancée before the wedding, demanding to maintain a special friendship with another woman. Thanh Vân is ice cold in the best way, exposing everything so people could see right from wrong. Good thing she cancelled the wedding in time. The Han family lived off Vân Phong for years and still tried to play the victim. Disgusting. I sat in my office, scrolling through the comments on my phone, the corner of my lips lifting into a faint smile. Ha Lin walked in, holding a white envelope. President Lee, this is an invitation to tonight's charity gala hosted by the Futho Business Association. Several major partners will be attending. I think you should go, both to reinforce your image after the public storm and to connect with potential contracts. I nodded and set the phone down. Good. Prepare the car, and check whether Han Vu Fong is on the guest list. Ha Lin smiled slightly. Already checked. He's attending. Seems like he used old connections from when Han Corp was still operating to squeeze in. The guest list isn't public, but I have sources from the organizers. I stood up, my gaze cooling. Perfect. Let him come. I want to see him face to face one more time. The gala was held at a 5-star lakeside hotel. The space elegant with warm golden lighting and soft violin music. I wore a long black evening gown with a refined V-neck. My hair draped over one shoulder. I was no longer the bride from the wedding day, I was a powerful, confident CEO, unshakable. The moment I entered, I drew admiring glances and polite greetings. I was speaking with the director of a major bank when Han Vu Fong appeared. He wore a slightly rumpled gray suit, his hair a bit disheveled. His eyes were bloodshot, his face noticeably gaunter than the last time I'd seen him. He walked straight toward me, ignoring everyone else, stopping in front of me. He lowered his voice, thick with hatred. Thanh Vân, satisfied now? My company is bankrupt. People look at me like a failure. You exposed all those messages. Turned me into a joke in front of the entire business world. This is all because of you. I looked at him calmly. Not because of me. Because you chose to send those messages right before the wedding. You chose to fabricate a victim narrative online. I simply showed everyone the truth. He clenched his teeth and leaned closer, his voice nearly hissing. You think you've won? All you have is money and power. I'll make you pay. Vân Phong Group will be mine sooner or later. Just wait. I smiled faintly and raised my wine glass, lightly tapping it against his. You're still dreaming at this stage. The Han family has nothing left but debt. What exactly do you plan to do? Hire someone to sabotage me? Spread more rumors? Or are you thinking of something else? His expression flickered, panic flashing briefly in his eyes, before being masked by a forced smugness. Just wait. I have a plan. You'll regret driving me into a corner. A woman like you, rich but lonely, one day you'll kneel and beg me for forgiveness. I met his gaze, my voice soft and cold enough to pierce bone. I'll be waiting. Then, as a final sincere warning, Don't do anything stupid, because if you cross the line this time, I won't let the law move slowly. I turned and walked toward another group of guests. He remained there, gripping his glass so tightly that wine spilled over the rim and dripped onto the floor. I didn't look back, but I could clearly feel the hatred burning into my back. That night, when I arrived at the villa, Ha Lin called urgently from the car behind mine. President Lee, the security team detected an unfamiliar vehicle parked near the villa gate for about 40 minutes. The driver was Han Vu Fong. He stayed inside the car and then left. The cameras captured his license plate and face clearly. I was silent for a moment, then replied evenly, increase bodyguard coverage to 24/7. Install additional cameras around the perimeter and prepare preliminary legal documentation. If he dares to make a move, we'll send him to prison immediately. I ended the call and stood by the window, looking out into the night. A cold wind blew past, carrying the scent of approaching rain. Han Vu Fong, you chose the wrong opponent from the very beginning, and now you're digging your own grave. Inch by inch. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The villa was unusually quiet, broken only by birdsong from the garden and the soft drip of coffee from the machine. I put on a simple set of sportswear, tied my hair up high, and stepped into the backyard to go for a run. It was a habit that helped me keep my head clear amid chaos. Today, however, the sense of unease crept in more distinctly. I finished 2 laps around the garden and stopped, scanning my surroundings. Nothing seemed out of place. Maybe it was just the aftereffect of last night's encounter. I took a deep breath, ran 1 more lap, then headed back inside. When I stepped into the foyer, Ha Lin was already waiting by the door, her expression more serious than usual. General Director, there's something urgent. What happened? I asked, my voice calm. The security team rechecked the cameras around the villa. Last night, one of the cameras at the side gate was disabled for about 25 minutes. Someone got very close to the house without leaving any clear traces. I frowned slightly. Any other signs? No confirmed unfamiliar vehicles or individuals yet, but I've added 2 more bodyguards on 24-hour rotation. Also, from an internal source, we found out that Han Vu Fong just rented an old cargo truck registered under the name of an old acquaintance. He's broke, but he's still moving around the Fu Tho area. I took a slow breath and looked at Ha Lin. Prepare the car. I'm going to the office as usual today. If he dares to act, we'll have complete evidence. I wasn't afraid. I just wanted everything to end quickly and cleanly. That afternoon, when I left the Vân Phong Group headquarters, the sky had turned overcast. A light drizzle dampened the road. My black SUV was parked right at the main entrance, with 2 bodyguards standing on either side. I stepped out, opened the car door, and suddenly heard the roar of an engine from afar. An old, battered silver-gray truck came charging straight toward me at a terrifying speed. No braking, no attempt to swerve. It was clearly intentional. The female bodyguard on my left reacted instantly. She shoved me hard into the backseat and shouted, "General Director, get down." The truck crashed violently into a concrete pillar just a few meters from my car. The screech of tearing metal pierced the air. Glass shattered everywhere. Smoke billowed from the truck's hood. The rain began to fall harder, mixing with the stench of gasoline and burning rubber. I sat up, my heart pounding, but my voice remained steady. Call the police immediately. Check the driver. The male bodyguard jumped out and ran to the truck. He yanked open the cab door and dragged the driver out. Inside, behind the wheel, was Han Vu Fong. Blood streamed from his forehead. His eyes were bloodshot, filled with raw hatred. He stared at me through the shattered glass and twisted his lips into a crooked smile. "Lee Ton Van, this time you're dead for sure." He tried to restart the engine, but it had already stalled. The bodyguards subdued him at once, forcing him face down onto the rain-soaked ground. I walked closer. Rain soaked my hair and suit jacket, but I didn't tremble. I crouched slightly and looked him straight in the eyes. "Han Vu Fong, you've gone too far. Attempted murder isn't a light charge," he roared, struggling under the guard's grip. "This is all because of you. You destroyed my life, my company, my reputation, everything fell apart because of you. I replied, my voice icy, not because of me, because you were greedy, stupid, and selfish. Did you really think violence would change anything? Now you'll pay with your freedom. The police arrived quickly. They handcuffed Han Vu Fong and took him away. I stood there in the rain, completely soaked, yet utterly unmoved. Ha Lin held an umbrella over me, her voice tense with concern. General Director, are you okay? I shook my head slightly. Better than ever. This is the final piece of evidence we needed. That evening at the police station, I submitted all the surveillance footage, from street cameras, my personal vehicle cameras, and the statements from the 2 bodyguards. Vân Phong Group's legal team had already prepared the case file. Attempted murder with aggravating circumstances, clear intent, use of a dangerous vehicle, and evidence of prior stalking. Han Vu Fong was immediately placed in detention. He screamed in the interrogation room. I didn't do anything. It was an accident. She framed me. But the cameras clearly showed him accelerating straight toward me, with no sign of braking or evasive action. When I left the police station, Han Vu Fong's parents were waiting outside. Their faces were ashen. His mother rushed forward and dropped to her knees in the rain before me. Thanh Vân, Ms. Lee, please, forgive Vu Fong. He just lost his mind for a moment. Our family has already lost everything. Don't push him into prison. His father's voice trembled as he pleaded. Please, child, for the sake of the past between our families. We know we were wrong. Please withdraw the complaint. I looked at them, my tone utterly steady. I'm not petty enough to drag your entire family down. But Han Vu Fong is responsible for his own actions. I won't withdraw the charges. I walked past them and got into my car. The rain kept falling, but inside me, the storm had long since passed. Han Vu Fong had sealed his own fate, and I could finally breathe again. The trial of Han Vu Fong took place swiftly, just 2 months after the incident at the company gate, with irrefutable evidence, footage from street cameras, personal vehicle cameras, testimony from the 2 bodyguards, and records proving prior surveillance. The court delivered its verdict. Han Vu Fong was sentenced to 18 years in prison for attempted murder with aggravating circumstances, clear premeditation, use of a dangerous vehicle, a cargo truck, and evidence of prior stalking and preparation. I didn't go to court. There was no need for me to appear. Ha Lin represented me, followed the entire trial, and sent me a detailed report immediately after it ended. When she called to inform me of the verdict, I replied calmly, good. Make sure the legal team monitors everything closely. I don't want him getting any early sentence reduction or special amnesty. I sat in my office, looking out the window. The rain had stopped. The sky was unusually clear today. Vân Phong Group was experiencing its strongest growth of the year. New contracts were being signed non-stop. The stock price was holding steady at a historic high, and the name Lee Thanh Vân was no longer associated with the cancelled wedding scandal. It had become a symbol of a clear-headed, decisive, and uncompromising female business leader. That afternoon, as I was leaving the office to head home, a familiar figure appeared at the building's entrance. Min Chao, the woman Han Vu Fong had once called his childhood best friend, stood there in a thin, worn coat. Her hair was disheveled, her face gaunt, far more haggard than the last time I had seen her at the wedding. She clutched an old handbag tightly, her eyes red and swollen. The moment she saw me step out, she rushed forward and dropped to her knees right in the middle of the driveway. Ms. Lee, Thanh Vân, I'm begging you, please spare Vu Fong, she sobbed. It's because of me, everything happened because of me. I know I was wrong. I was the third party, the one who destroyed everything. But please, give him one chance. I'll do anything for you. I'll work like an ox or a horse. I'll do whatever you ask. Just please withdraw the charges. The 2 bodyguards moved forward immediately, but I raised my hand to stop them. I bent down and looked her straight in the eyes. Why are you kneeling here? To make people pity you? Or to soften my heart? Min Chao broke down completely, her tears splattering onto the rain-damp pavement. I don't dare hope for your forgiveness. But Vu Fong, he's the only person I have left. The Han family has fallen apart. I sold everything to pay off debts. He's all I have now. Please, he'll die in prison. I straightened up, my voice even. At the wedding, when Vu Fong publicly revealed those messages and demanded to maintain a special relationship with you after marrying me, you stood there in silence. You even looked at me with satisfaction. You thought you'd won, didn't you? So what is it now? Do you regret choosing the wrong man? Or are you regretting that your plan failed? Min Chao trembled, unable to answer. I continued, I've already shown enough restraint. When he sent those betrayal messages, I didn't expose them immediately. When he spread rumors online, I stayed silent and let him dig his own grave. When he tried to kill me, I still handed him over to the law instead of taking matters into my own hands. That was the last mercy I was willing to give. I turned and walked toward my car. Min Chao remained kneeling there, her cries echoing behind me. Ms. Lee, please, I'm begging you. I stopped for a second and spoke without turning around. Stop kneeling. Get up and live your life. Vu Fong chose this path himself. And you need to take responsibility for your own choices too. I got into the car. The door closed, and her sobbing gradually faded behind us. Ha Lin, sitting in the passenger seat, asked softly, General Director, do you have any regrets? I shook my head and looked out the window. No, I only regret wasting time on a marriage that was never worth it. From now on, I won't let anyone interfere with my life again. The car pulled away, leaving Min Chao collapsed on the road, covering her face as she cried uncontrollably. But I knew she wasn't crying out of genuine remorse. She was crying because she had lost, and I had won completely. A year passed since the day I stood in the middle of a banquet hall, tore off the veil, and announced that I would not marry Han Vu Fong. Vân Phong Group was no longer a mere 100 billion enterprise. We had crossed the trillion mark, expanded into Southeast Asia and several European markets. New projects were signed one after another. The stock price remained at a historic high, and the name Lee Tan Van had become synonymous with an independent, rational woman who would never allow anyone to control her life. I still woke up at 6 every morning, still ran around the villa garden, still brewed black coffee with no sugar, still walked into the office in a perfectly pressed suit, my gaze unshakable. My life now revolved around only 3 things: work, health, and absolute freedom. Ha Lin had been promoted to Chief Operating Officer in charge of strategy. One afternoon, she entered my office holding a new report. General Director, the African coal mine project is now operating steadily. Mr. Lee Min Kang, your uncle, sent a letter thanking you for giving him a chance to start over. He said he won't return to Vietnam for at least 5 years. I smiled faintly and flipped through the report. Good, let him stay there. I don't need fake relatives by my side. Ha Lin hesitated for a moment before continuing. There's one more update. Han Vu Fong has been transferred to a stricter detention facility for violating prison regulations. He tried to contact Min Chao through an illegal channel but was caught. Min Chao has moved to a small province in central Vietnam and is working at a garment factory to get by. She no longer has any contact with the Han family. I nodded without emotion. They chose their paths. Now they live with the consequences. I stood up and walked onto the balcony, looking down at the city as the sunset dyed the horizon red. A year ago, I thought marriage was the one thing I owed to my grandmother's last wish. Now I understood. Her greatest wish was never to see me in a wedding dress, but to see me live strong, free, and never let anyone control my life. I had done exactly that. My phone vibrated lightly. A message from an old business partner appeared. Ms. Lee, there's a small dinner tonight. A special guest wants to meet you. He's the new CEO of a foreign conglomerate and is very impressed with you. I smiled and replied briefly, thank you, but I'm busy tonight. Let's schedule another time. I turned off the phone. No explanation needed. I wasn't in a hurry to find someone to fill an empty space. Love or marriage, if it came, it would be when I was ready. And it would have to be someone worthy of standing beside me. Not someone who wanted to own me. I walked back into the office and sat down at my desk. In front of me was a photo of my grandmother, smiling gently, holding a bouquet of white daisies. I whispered softly, "Grandma, I wore the wedding dress. And I won't let anyone make me cry ever again." The evening breeze drifted in from the balcony, carrying the faint scent of jasmine. My life was no longer a story about revenge or hatred. It was the story of a woman who wrote her own ending with her own hands, and began a new chapter that belonged entirely to herself. That's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like the video, subscribe to China Story Tales, and stay tuned for more stories.